Media. As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians, and welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and with me is the guy who should have been playing Luigi in the new Super Mario Brothers movie. It's
Yahel. Is that because I'm Hispanic, like one John Leguizamo?
That's what he would want. That's obviously what he wants, since he's very angry that, I mean, I don't even understand what he's angry about, but he's angry about something regarding the new Super Mario Brothers movie. But
yeah, I saw that he, I mean, I didn't read the article as, a typical American, but I did read a headline that said, like, John Leguizamo says he won't watch the new Super Mario movie. And it's like, I'm sure it's something benign, like, he said, "Oh, I don't have time to watch it right now. Maybe later."
No, I thought he was pretty vocal about the fact that there wasn't enough Latino representation. And I admit, I too only read headlines. So
wait a minute, like in the Mario Brothers movie, he said that there isn't enough.
I'm serious.
Does he not know how to pronounce Italian representation? Maybe very confused.
So am I, but I mean, honestly, it's just to get attention. I'm sure. He wants.
I mean,
what's up?
That's very weird. Maybe like there's literally like no Hispanic actors at all or something in the cast.
Maybe.
I love, Steve, how you and I will often bring something up and then we've done no research on it. Mm-hmm. So we can't really, we just bring up problems and questions, no solutions.
I mean, but there are entire YouTube channels that are based on that model. I mean, people are here for nostalgia and like weird crap that they forgot about, not for the headlines. At least that's what I assume. They're here.
Yet we keep bringing them up.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's nothing wrong.
I'm guilty of it
nothing wrong with some casual conversation about some, hot button topics here and there. I mean, but we all know people are really here for Super Mario Brothers 1993, and it's blowing up on TikTok. So
it is.
Yeah. So if you missed our last episode about Super Mario Brothers 93, you can see a couple of highlight clips on the talk, as the kids probably don't call it. But
I would like to think that John Leguizamo saw our TikTok, our most recent one that's kind of blown up, and then he like scrolled to the one about him, and as a tear rolled down his eyes, he said, "Tell my publicist I will not see the new Super Mario Brothers movie."
I like that. I thought you were going to say that it's like, that's it. I'm done. I'm never acting again. Because
I was thinking about John Leguizamo's acting this week.
That phrase has never been uttered by anyone, but please continue.
Yeah, even by his publicist, actually.
Right.
No, but I was thinking about like a few like random other things I've seen him in, and like honestly, I feel like maybe I was a little too harsh on him as far as an actor. Like if somebody else has written a part for him that doesn't call for him to be obnoxious, he's perfectly serviceable. Like he was on, I can't remember if it was NYPD Blue or,
oh really?
One of those like cop shows. Yeah, he was on there for a while. I think I don't think it was NYPD Blue. I think it was something on Fox. But anyways, I remember seeing bits and pieces here and there, and he was fine. Right. He was okay in that Christmas movie. Like, however, whenever like he's meant to be obnoxious, like it's so weird. It's like he's so obnoxious that it's not like it's fun to watch obnoxious. It's just like, ooh, can't wait for this scene to be done.
Yeah. Like his violator was so obnoxious in Spawn. And you know what? I completely forgot that he was in. Thanks to the comments on the TikTok video, was Land of the Dead. Did you ever even see Land of the Dead?
I don't.
Because that was a...
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, I did see it.
That was a big deal when it came out, especially for me, because I was really still into horror. I mean, and I still am. But, I mean, I was like, oh, wow, I finally get to see a George Romero movie on the big screen. And then it came out, and I don't remember it being very good. I never watched it again. Did you?
Is that the one where they're like at the mall?
Oh, no, that's Dawn of the Dead. That's a brilliant movie. No, Land of the Dead, again, it's funny. Hey, that's a...
Hey, Dennis Hopper's in it,
I was
right?
going to say, that's a reunion of Super Mario 93 almost. Yeah, because Dennis Hopper, of
I'm
course...
sure that's all they talked about on set.
Hey, remember when we were in Super Mario 93? Oh, man, did that suck.
And then Dennis Hopper spits at John Leguizamo's face for saying that.
He goes, Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's a Blue Ribbon quote, or Blue
Dennis Hopper
Velvet
says,
quote.
never, yeah, because I assumed Leguizamo brought it up, and Dennis Hopper was like, never bring it up again. Spits in his face,
right,
and then tells him, don't make eye contact with me the rest of this movie.
Actually, I've heard that in person, Dennis Hopper's actually, or was, a very personable guy. But no, Land of the Dead was, I think they're in like a big building, and then there's all this sort of subtext about class divide. Of course, Dennis Hopper's like the rich guy who's paying people like John Leguizamo to like go out and like find like fancy food and antiques and stuff for him.
Okay, I have seen it. I have
pretty
seen it.
Forgettable, right? I mean, I'm surprised I remember that much about it.
It is pretty forgettable. Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, in George Romero's later years, his later movies weren't very good, unfortunately. But
yeah.
Oh,
is this the one? I might be also thinking of Dawn of the Dead. Is this one where like the zombies, like, not that they become smart, but they start figuring out some things, like how to open doors or something like that?
Like they started that in Day of the Dead, and I think they continued it in Land of the Dead, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been a while. Anybody let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But enough of George Romero, his later crappy works. We're here to talk about something awesome, and that's licensed Nintendo comics. We'll just get right into it. Have you ever read any licensed Nintendo comic books in your time on this earth, Yahel?
Yeah, I have. Especially if we count the ones that were in Nintendo Power, the Nestor, and I can't remember the other main character's name, but I do remember reading a few as a kid. I never owned them, but I had a buddy who did. And I remember not being too impressed by them then.
Right.
I've never read the one that we're going to cover today, this Game Boy one, and it was eerily, like strangely more adult relevant than I expected it to be. Relevant to today. But what about you? Did you read any of these growing up?
I think my history is very similar to yours. I had a friend who had a subscription to GamePro. I remember reading some of those. I never remember seeing these Valiant Nintendo comics. So I don't think we'll ever get another chance to talk about the 90s comic book publisher Valiant, who published this, and the other is called Nintendo Comic Systems Comics. What is your history with Valiant Comics? Did you ever read any back in the day?
I don't think so. I do remember seeing, Valiant stuff in Wizard magazine. I think Turok was like their biggest one, right? But I remember why I didn't read them, and it was a pretty stupid reason. And can you guess what it is?
The price?
Not the price. That might have been something else, but I never even looked at the price. I didn't get that far.
They were more expensive than even Image Comics. Like Image was like $250, and they were like $295 because I think they started the whole glossy pages trend, if I'm not mistaken.
But they were all in black and white, though, like on the inside, right?
No. Valiant's full color, baby.
Oh, who was black and white on the inside always?
I don't know. I mean, none of.
Oh, then I must be mixing them. Oh, sorry, I'm mixing them up then with another publisher. Because wasn't like the Max like originally black and white on the inside, and like some other one with like a rabbit that was
rabbit. Maybe, are you thinking of like Bucky O'Hare or something? I mean, I'm thinking. Well, here I'm going to name off a few titles, and you tell me if you've ever read any of them, because I actually liked Valiant quite a bit. But like here were their big ones: Magnus, Robot Fighter; Turok. You already mentioned Turok. Solar, Man of the Atom.
I remember that one. Didn't read it.
Bloodshot, the recently failed Vin Diesel movie. Bloodshot was a Valiant. Also, first Chromium cover ever by one Rob Liefeld. We're big fans. Ninjak, Rye, or any of these.
Ninjak.
Yeah, Ninjak. Ninjak was awesome. So you never.
I just never heard of it. The name, like out of those, the only ones that I said I've heard of are the ones I've heard of.
But you never read a single Valiant comic in all your days.
I don't think so, man.
Okay.
I don't think I did. I was like a Marvel boy until a little DC, and then once Image came around, I was all in on the pouches.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, Valiant was a big deal for a minute there, but and they even tried to bring him back in like early 2000s, but sadly, I mean, it still barely exists. They put out like one book a month, but I don't know, for whatever reason, they always end up getting mismanaged or something. Yeah. All right. Anyway, enough of Valiant Comics. Are you ready to jump into Game Boy #1? Oh, he's jumping away, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm going to go ahead and play the bumper anyway. Here we go.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right, but before we jump into Game Boy #1 here, we've got a new segment here on Obscurity Now. We sort of accidentally fell into it last episode. We just... What?
We fell into it fearlessly, Steve,
well,
you could say.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And we just started talking about T-shirts, and then Yahel started reading off random No Fear shirts off the internet, and I was just like, the world needs this segment. So this is the first official, I don't know, we don't even have an official name, the No Fear segment. And so the No Fear shirt of the day, or the week, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
All right, so
yeah, maybe we'll come up with something that flows a little better, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, so bear with us.
It's a little wordy, the title, much like some of these shirts, as we're going to see today.
Exactly, but as long as you say it fearlessly, then it all works out. If you say it like you're in a Mountain Dew commercial from the 90s, where you're snowboarding and drinking a Mountain Dew at the same time, then it's all good. So without further ado, here's the first No Fear shirt of the week. Take it away.
Okay. If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. No fear.
Bravo, sir. I mean, that just,
oh my God,
that empowers me. That's like a shot of like coffee and your aforementioned cocaine addiction. I'm ready to take on the day, the week, even.
If you can't get any testosterone from your drug dealer that week, you can just put on one of these No Fear shirts, and you'll be bulking up that week. But yeah, I don't know if we should even explain what these are. But for those that don't remember, they're just basically like the equivalent of a targeted shirt. Mm-hmm. In fact, in a lot of ways, they're like the original cringe targeted shirt. Sure. From the 90s, and they always had like some stupid saying like that, and at the bottom usually it would say No Fear, it would have this No Fear logo. And
if you actually want to see what this shirt looks like, please look us up on YouTube and subscribe. Why not? What do you have to lose? What
are you, scared?
Yeah.
You gotta have no fear here, buddy.
Yeah, only the fearless subscribe. And you know what, I feel like No Fear really missed out on remember when we watched the mockumentary? The first one is WNUF, and then the other one, and in the commercial they say it's you can buy the whole seat, but you're only gonna need the edge. Like,
yeah. I mean, honestly, like somebody should buy up the No Fear brand and start selling these shirts again, because I think that there would be a lot of crossover with these shirts and incels.
Well, what a surprise. It's funny you mentioned that. Incels are 77% of our viewership.
Oh, perfect. Then they're going to really appreciate the character that kicks off this Game Boy comic we're going to read, because he definitely gives off some incel vibes.
Oh, well, I mean, from what I gleaned from this comic, what Valiant and Nintendo want is for us to turn our back on women and play more Game Boy. But you're going to see that. All right, so we're going to say goodbye to the
But they don't want us to turn our back on the veterans.
Of course. I didn't really get that from the comic, but sure. All right, so we're going to say goodbye to the No Fear shirt here. Until next week, goodbye. And then we're going to say hello to our Game Boy number 1. Oh, wow. Look at that cover. So we'll just dive right in. But before, I want to know, did you have a Game Boy? Were you a fan of the Game Boy? Tell me about your history of the Game Boy.
I do have a Game Boy. I still have a Game Boy. I've actually gotten it modded with a backlit screen now, LED backlit screen. And I've got a couple Game Boy cameras. And actually, one of the videos I've been working on forever is about the Game Boy.
Wow.
So yeah, a buddy of mine had it first, and then I got one like a couple years after it was on the market, I think, or something like that. I never had like a ton of games for it.
Right.
And to be honest, I think I appreciated it more later as an adult than I did as a kid. Because I was never like a fan of playing on the go, and the screen was kind of like, I don't know, shit.
I mean, it's amazing that the Game Boy still beat the Sega Game Gear. But I don't know. I guess
I think it's pretty easy to see why. Because the Sega Game Gear, I mean, it was way more expensive. You needed like 1 million batteries, and the batteries had a very short shelf life.
Right.
And yeah, there was an AC adapter for it, but that kind of then defeats the whole purpose of being able to play it on the go. I do say though, the balls on Sega to have a and I don't think the Game Gear has a backlit screen either. So it's not like it's that much easier to see. But I do give Sega credit for having the balls to have a TV tuner accessory for the Game Gear.
I wanted that so bad back in the day. But yeah, I remember I bought my friend's Game Boy, and he had like a case and a few games with it. I think I actually got good grades, and my parents were like, well, for once, my parents were like, what do you want? And I was like, I want this Game Boy. And I don't really remember the games that went with it, but since this issue is very focused on Super Mario Land, I will say that I did enjoy that game. What are your thoughts on Super Mario Land?
Yeah, I haven't played it in, over a decade, maybe more, but yeah, I do remember liking it a lot. And I will say, like, the constraints of the Game Boy did lead to developers coming up with a lot of, good games, because you had to. You weren't going to, like, blow people away with the graphics. You weren't going to blow people away with the sound. You only have 2 buttons.
Right.
So, yeah. And the very limited color palette, obviously. But, Steve, I'm surprised that you told your parents that for your good grades you wanted a Game Boy. I thought you wanted all beggars to be shot.
Oh, right.
Did you not read this comic?
Well, I mean, that was later on, and once I got my MAGA hat, then I started asking for things like that.
Oh God. Yeah, basically the initial character, he is kind of like very MAGA incel, extreme. I mean, I'm sure to the right kind of character. It's weird.
I'm sure. So Jim Shooter, he was the editor-in-chief of Valiant Comics, and I just wonder, I'm like, is he like, a super liberal where he just wanted to, paint this guy to look like the worst, like, possible conservative that you could come up with? But we'll get there, dear viewer / listener, in just a minute here. In fact, why don't you tell me what and describe this awesome cover to the listeners?
Yeah, so this cover, you've got a Game Boy kind of front and center. You've got a guy that, I guess he's supposed to be like a or like in his teens, I guess.
I think that's supposed to be Rick.
Yeah, I think so too, from the actual issue itself. And then you've got Mario there standing on top of the Game Boy, and a bunch of characters from Mario Land kind of jumping off to the right. And like this is taking place like in a bedroom, like a teenage kid's bedroom.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool. I think if I was a kid, like I would have been like, oh, this is a cool cover.
Right. Yeah. I'd go, ooh, there's Mario and the Game Boy, the stuff that we wanted back then. Much more than icky girls. Am I right?
Apparently.
And it's a decent cover. And yeah, I'm glad I was able to find a better scan of this. You can actually go and read this comic book among all the other Valiant and Nintendo Comic System comics on archive.org for free. But the first scan I found of this was not good, and luckily I found another one that looks much better. But yeah, not a bad cover. So moving on, and actually we should probably talk about some of the people who are behind this comic. And it's weird, like if you look through the comic, there's like no credits anywhere. I had to do a little bit of digging. And so, just for the record, this is Game Boy #1. It lasted for 4 issues and premiered in February of 1990. Obviously, it's published by Valiant Comics, as we said, as part of their Nintendo Comic System, with a cover price coming in at a whopping $1.95. And here's the synopsis for the comic book. Herman Smirch, you gotta love that name, a bitter and self-centered clerk at an electronics store, is surprised when he sees Tatanga, Princess Daisy, and the various enemies from Super Mario Land materialize out of his Game Boy. And like the synopsis that I got off the internet, it's way longer. I just cut it off right there because, I mean, we're just going to read through the book anyway. So the writer here... Oh, man, this is a stark contrast from the comic, which is, obviously geared towards kids, maybe, preteens, would you say, for the most part?
Yeah, at most, like maybe 13-year-olds or whatever, because like that's what the two main, the good guy human characters are.
Right. So the writer here, George Caragone, he was an American comic book writer and editor, most notable for co-founding Penthouse Comics. And but before that, he worked for Marvel. He wrote their licensed Masters of the Universe comic, Star Brand. And when he worked for Valiant, he basically worked on all these Nintendo comics. There's a Punch-Out comic, Legend of Zelda, and Captain N. And just to put a button on his already sort of seedy career, he died by suicide on July 30th, 1995, by jumping off the 45th floor of the interior atrium of the Marriott Marquis Hotel in Times Square.
Wow.
Apparently he,
Nice.
I guess he was so successful with his Penthouse comics that he got into a bit of excess, in addition to some financial malfeasance. And then when they found out about it, I guess instead of dealing with it, he checked out. So,
I wasn't expecting that. That took a turn.
Yeah, so stay away from Penthouse Comics, kids. They're bad news. Now, the artist, I don't really have as much to say about him. I think he's still alive and well. Ironically named Art Nichols. He worked for Marvel, DC, and my favorite, the Ultraverse. He worked on several Punisher books, The Return of the Jedi weekly comic, Nomad, Moon Knight, and the aforementioned Magnus Robot Fighter. And I would say his art in those other books, a little bit better than the art here in Game Boy. Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. And that pretty much does it for the behind the scenes of Game Boy #1. Are you ready to crack this puppy open?
Yeah, let's crack this puppy skull open.
Much like writers... Much like the writers...
Oh, my God. Come on.
Oh, man. Okay, moving on here. So
have some respect, sir.
Yeah. So page 1 here, we get another sort of beautiful rendering of the Game Boy. This whole comic, in case you haven't figured it out, is basically one giant commercial for Game Boy and the Nintendo and Super Mario Land. And we get a guy off screen here going, kablooey! Mario buys the farm! Tatanga wins again! And up here at the top, the narration, this is kind of fun. It just, I could just picture like James Earl Jones reading it or something, or maybe even Stan Lee if he ever worked for Valiant. Look around you. This is the real world where Super Mario Land is only an exciting video game. where Mario, Princess Daisy, and the mysterious spaceman Tatanga are just images on a screen. But today, that will change thanks to the power of Game Boy in the palm of your hand. So, I mean, they're really laying it on. If you buy a Game Boy, Yahel, your whole life is going to change.
That's right. By the way, it's kind of weird that there's like a big Hershey's bar
I thought so
on the desk. Like, was that, you think, paid product placement, or they're just like, I mean, like, I kind of doubt it's paid product placement. Like,
I was thinking if it was paid product placement, we would get the full Hershey's bar. I just thought, like, maybe they're just trying to throw it in to make it more realistic or something.
I'm just surprised it wasn't like a generic thing. But then again, on the second page, there's like a Rambo poster.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I love on the next page, like, this guy's apartment. Like, it is like a MAGA incel apartment.
It is, yeah. I guess Valiant was very anti-conservative back then. But
well, it's just amazing, like, how, and I'm not trying to dunk on these people right now, at least, but it's amazing, like, how relevant this still is. He's got like a big American flag in the middle of his living room, like behind his couch, a freaking Rambo poster, and then he's going to complain about liberals later on. Like, it's I was just like, wow.
Maybe it's the writer, what was his name again? George Caragone.
Hates the homeless.
Yeah. I mean, I was just saying maybe the writer hates the conservatives, but which is why they cast one as a villain. But
a villain.
Yeah. So basically, we meet Herman Smirch, and as Yahel just described his apartment, it looks like kind of like your typical ultra conservative. There's a giant American flag in the background and a Rambo poster. And he's saying, "Oh, that was fun. Hey, Addie." And I guess he's talking to, I guess it's a rat? Yeah, it's a rat in a cage there. That's his only friend, I guess. "That was fun. Did you see that? I got Mario all the way to the end, and then I let Tatanga blow him up." What is the point of playing a game if you're going to, lose on purpose at the end, Yahel? Can you enlighten me here?
Yeah, I don't get it. At first I was like, well, maybe he just means like I let him, in the sense like, oh, I let it, because I did so poorly, like it happened, like not in I purposely, but I think it is supposed to be on purpose.
Oh, no, it is. They're just trying to establish that, that this guy is a bad guy, and he's the perfect guy to be manipulated by a 4-bit sprite from another dimension, at least.
It's just like super strange, but
well, this whole book is pretty strange, as we're going to see. So basically, we see here, I mean, there's some really funny like dialogue I'm going to try not to skimp over, but he has an encounter, Herman here, with a homeless guy. The guy just asked him for a quarter, and Herman's like, "No!" Like, he just freaks out, and the homeless guy just is like, hey, relax, like, I'm out of here. And then under his breath, Herman goes, you want to fill it in here?
He's like, "Beggars should all be shot. Yeah. No fear."
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, why would you even say that? I mean, you could just think it, but it's to basically enrage the homeless guy even further.
Yeah. Although I guess he's whispering it, right? Because it's got, like, that's what
exactly.
The dotted
he does
lines
whisper
means,
it
right?
under his breath. And so, yeah, I guess they're just trying to show that he's also a coward, because then Herman, to reply to this homeless veteran, was just like, "I didn't look, I'll give you a quarter." And then a homeless guy just goes, "Keep it, stuff it." And then he just sort of wanders away. So this is like our first, full sequential page. What do you think of the art here?
I actually like this guy's art quite a bit. Like, it's very like I the way he does anatomy, it's like very good. Like the hands in the previous page, for example. I appreciate that his characters look consistently in their face from panel to panel. Now, is his art style particularly memorable? No, it almost looks like art you would find in a how to draw comics book, where it's like, technically very correct, but maybe not stylistically
Right.
exciting.
Oh, well said. I agree with you there. I like the other comics that I looked at of his, like the more traditional superhero stuff, was a lot more, I don't know, in your face, for lack of a better term. But yeah, he's very consistent, and I think he's just doing his best to establish a very kind of baseline real world, more or less.
Yeah, and I got to give this guy props too because like he draws the real world like very realistically, like you said, but then the Mario characters he's got to draw it in that Nintendo kind of style, and he does that really well. So the guy obviously is
sure.
versatile.
I mean, you can't be named Art Nichols and be an artist and not be good. So now we're inside a mall, and basically Herman is going to his job. He's telling his boss or manager, "Oh, I was practically mugged." And his boss is just like, "Oh, come on, Herman, it's not that bad." And he's like, "It is. Don't you see the filth, the crime, the fear everywhere? If I had my way, every litterbug, jaywalker, mugger, and liberal politician would be strung up." And it's just like, does he go into work every day ranting like this?
Yeah, I think this is the inspiration for Marjorie Taylor Greene to like.
Oh man! And then he continues. He goes, "There's no safe place anymore for clean, decent people." And his boss just takes it with a grain of salt. He's like, "Look, I'm going to the bank. Keep an eye on things, will you, Herman?"
See, it was way easier to deal with these people before Reddit and Twitter. You just go, okay, you're nuts. I'm gonna go to the bathroom now. You watch the store.
So we got a plot point here. Maybe not that big of a plot point, but it's basically just to show us what a scumbag Herman is. Boss is like, by the way, I noticed that one of our Game Boys was missing. Shoplifted, I guess. He's not even worried about it. Things must have been going great for retail back in the 90s. Then we see a thought balloon of Herman here. And I love how he's holding, it's an actual Game Boy box, like not a drawn one. Like it's like they
scanned it or took a picture of it. And they probably took this is 1993. Yeah. So they probably just took a picture of it and like a small from far away or something and then cut it out.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And speaking of things that people are thinking, Herman is thinking to himself, "It wasn't shoplifted, you rich pig. I took it because I deserve it. Considering how little I get paid, I think it's about time to help myself to another little bonus. I've had a rough morning." And so we turn...
Yeah, he's very entitled. Again, it's a lot like these people. Like, it's so weird, man.
So we turn the page, and now we see Rick and Josh getting dropped off at the mall by their mom. And then in the next panel, we got Josh. He's the blonde-haired one, and Rick, who looks suspiciously kind of like Captain N, don't you think? The red-haired one?
Yeah, he does look a little like Captain N. But he's your typical like 80s, 90s cool kid.
And Josh, I guess maybe he's like the younger brother. And if they're brothers, why do they have different hair color? I don't really understand, but whatever. I guess it's to make sure we can tell them apart. But Josh, he goes, "Let's see if Levinson's has any Mario 3 cartridges." But old Rick, Slick Rick, I call him, he's all about the ladies. He goes, "Those girls are heading for the food court." And I don't know. And then they just sort of, they change in the switch of panels here. Now they're in Levinson's, which is the name of Herman's electronics store. And Josh is like, "Oh, excuse me, do you have Super Mario Brothers 3? And then Josh, or Slick Rick, is all, "Excuse me, mister." And he's too busy playing his Game Boy to even do his like basic job.
Yeah, he's like completely ignoring them. And the funny thing is like, well, is he just playing his best up until the very end? Like once again at every game, like he has no control over his own life. He's like feels like he's not earning a lot of money. So this is like the only contrle
to torture and kill Mario at the very end of the game. Wow,
pretty much.
That really says something. It is sad.
It's sad.
So Rick is all, he doesn't have it. Come on, let's go. And then Josh is all, let's try a different store. And but Rick is all, hey, later, let's check out the food court. And don't be a dweeb in front of the girls, okay? And they hear like a thunk coming from, they've left the electronics store. They hear like a noise. It says thunk. And old Josh is all, oh, what was that? And Slick Rick is all, I don't know, come on. Then we turn the page and like a panel straight out of Gulliver's Travels itself. We see Herman. Yep. He has been taken over by all of basically the bad sprites from Super Mario Land. And I don't know, did you want to describe anything more from this panel?
Yeah, I mean, he's just laying down and he's got like rope or some kind of twine all around him, holding him down. And yeah, basically all the characters from Super Mario Land, all the bad guy characters, I think this is most, if not all of them, they're around him and they're really small. They're like, I don't know, like G.I. Joe size.
I would say that. And after this comic, did you ever even know like the name of the main bad guy villain in Super Mario Land? Because I sure didn't.
You know, I might have known as a kid, but I certainly didn't remember it. So I read, and when I read this, I was like, I guess that was his name.
Yeah,
sure.
Whatever you say, George Caragone. So yeah, they actually name off. It's kind of like an introduction for Tartanga. It's his second in command, whose name I forgot at the moment. It's in my notes, but he goes, "All hail his exalted majesty, the all-powerful conqueror of worlds, Pharaoh of Birabudo, Maharaja of Muda, Emperor of Easton, Kaiser of Tatanga, the mysterious Space Lord." And
these are like rejected Chris Jericho
I was gonna
nicknames
say,
for himself.
Well, I was gonna say that, or like Ric Flair maybe. But yeah, so this guy's the Ric Flair of Super Mario Land, I guess, and he's there with Daisy, which is weird because, well, I guess she has to be with him, otherwise Mario wouldn't have his motivation to go to Mario Land.
Yeah, he's kidnapped her, and it actually makes total sense, Steve, that he's got her, because if you remember from page 2, he purposely lost the game. So Tatanga got to keep it, and this is his Game Boy that it's coming out of. I mean, I know he's using the one at the store, but presumably he was playing Super Mario Land to once again have Mario lose. So
yeah, they go out of their way to explain everything in this comic.
I will say, very little plot holes here. It's almost
George was actually a pretty good writer, even for something as frivolous as a licensed Nintendo comic. But let's see. So moving on. Basically, what do we got here? Tartanga.
So yeah, Tatanga. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind me, I can tell you where we're at. Yeah. So Tatanga is just talking about how this is another world to conquer, and Daisy, of course, doesn't want him to conquer this other world because she doesn't want him to harm people. And Tatanga's just going on and on about how he's doing it for her, and like he wants. I do think it's funny, like he wants her to consent to marrying him. So he doesn't want to force it on her. I love that
they use that word. It's very 2023.
Yeah. Like this book is so ahead of its time.
Sure. Very, very woke.
But but the idea here is that, like, he wants her to want him is the whole thing. I and that's really what he means by consent. Yeah, because he's still like forcing her into this, even if she says, "Fine, I'll marry you."
He's all, "I want us to reign together over the greatest empire in the history of the universe." And all the while, Herman is tied down in his own existential. I love the look on his face in the second to last panel. I mean, sheer horror. He can't believe what's going on here.
Yeah.
And then we get, as you said, there's a lot of sort of adult stuff for a kid's comic. And at the end, Tartanga is all, "He has served his purpose, showing us the way here. So they are killing him." And of course, that doesn't sit well with Daisy. So we turn the page, and basically, she sort of manipulates him into not killing him immediately. and he goes, his second in command is named Pinope, and he goes, question the captive. And doesn't it just look weird with him and the octopus there? It's I don't know, a very Japanese like nightmare fuel.
Tentacly.
Yeah, it is, and this is an American comic. It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, but it's a Japanese property, right?
You gotta get that Japanese market in there of the tentacle lovers. So Herman is all, oh, I don't believe this. You're from the game. How did you get here? And this is where we get, I love it. This, not too convoluted, but he sent out a psychic probe, and it reached out to Herman here because he's so cowardly and weak-willed that he wants to be dominated, basically, by the power top that is Tartanga.
But he Pionpi here specifically says, that you virtually invited Lord Tatanga here, but then weak men always invite oppression. Like there's a lot of social commentary here.
Too. I could see no fear.
It is a great line. Like it's something you. That is a great no fear shirt. Weak men always invite oppression. Yeah. No fear. But there's a lot of social commentary here because I mean, I'm guessing based on like what we've already seen of the writing, that what he's saying here is that like weak men lead themselves to be led by fascist type leaders and autocrats such as Tatanga here. So like it's crazy to me like how adult there's how much adult subtext there is.
Tartanga, more like Trump Tanga. Am I right? Oh. All right. Turn the page here. Page number 8 if you're following along at home. So Tartanga says they're going to take over the Wonderworld Mall. Meanwhile, Josh asks Rick why he's into girls. Then they are ambushed by a bunch of the sprites from Mario Land. Basically, Josh and Rick, they're hanging out in the food court, and Josh is all, hey, Rick, how come when you're around girls you forget all about video games and baseball and everything else you usually like?
Dude, baseball is such like a 90s thing. Like every kid was into baseball. Even if they weren't watching it, they were into baseball cards or something related to baseball. I know we've talked about it before, how I mentioned that in Nick Arcade. Like, the host would ask kids, oh, what hobbies do you have? And almost always they would say baseball. I even like included like a super cut of kids on Nick Arcade talking about how they're into baseball in my Nick Arcade video. So yeah, interesting that it comes up here. It comes up a few times actually.
You know what? I just read an article recently. You know what kind of killed the baseball popularity, don't you?
No, I don't.
The steroid
Basketball,
scandal.
Maybe like the Bulls. Oh, really? I thought it was kind of over by then. You talking about like the Androstein?
I thought it was much later. Yeah, McGuire and all that, like, because it was discovered they were all on it, basically.
I thought it was like the collapse of the baseball card market.
Well,
like
according to the article that I read, and that was also because of steroids. Like basically, it was just there was a scandal all over the Major League Baseball, and it all just sort of collapsed. Oh, they also overprinted on the much like with everything in the '90s, they overprinted on the baseball cards, and it just.
Because everybody thought they were going to get rich by buying comic books or baseball cards. Like they thought, like, oh, in 15 years I'll be able to sell this and retire. But Steve, do you? Because the way I remember it, and I was never a big sports guy, but I remember at the time in the 90s, baseball was more popular than football.
Maybe. In my household, and yeah, of course, as we've stated many times, we're not into. Non-professional wrestling sports.
We're just into the girls,
right?
But not the baseball.
We only cared about American football and basketball. We never cared about baseball at all in the Honeycutt household. So I can't tell you one way or the other.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure our viewers are loving this aside.
Right, for sure. So anyway, Slick Rick is all like, ooh, look at those excellent babes. And then out of nowhere, the Mario Land bad guy sprites show up, and they basically ambush Josh and Rick. And Josh is such a fanboy. He sits there naming off all the names of the bad guys instead of running for his life. Let me take a shot at these. Wow, it's Dragon Zamazu, and Rokitan, and a Bun Bun, and Batadon. Like, I don't know about you, but I would just be running away, or at least trying to stomp on them if possible. I mean, they're basically, big roaches or whatever, but... So we turn the page and we get a pretty decent one-page spread here of like the entire mall just being overrun by all these bad guys from Super Mario Land. What do you think of this page?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I will say the floor, because it's all white of the mall, like it does make it kind of, I don't know, look a bit nondescript. However, there are like a lot of small characters in it because of the size of the enemies. So I guess you couldn't really do something like add like a tile pattern or something like that, because then it'd probably be like too busy. So, but yeah, I like it a lot. So we see like there's some explosions happening, and I don't know if you noticed, Steve, but on the second floor of this one-page shot, this is like near the upper left-hand corner of the page, there's a guy who do you see what I'm talking about? A bomb or something exploded, and he is now falling from the second story of the mall down
to his death. Wow, and there isn't even any Mario around to save him. And we know Josh and Rick can't do it.
Yeah, and there's other people being caught in the explosion. Like, you can see there's a woman who's like flailing her arms in the air because she's caught in the tail end of an explosion.
So what you're saying...
There's people being murdered.
So these cartoony, cute-looking sprites from Super Mario Land are no joke. They're straight up murdering people or murking people.
Yeah. To be honest, Steve, this comic, I'm not saying this to be funny. I really feel like the story in this comic book would have made a much better Super Mario Brothers movie.
I was thinking the same thing. Oh, man. 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Like you could have even kept the social commentary in it. You literally don't have to change like much about the movie, and it would have been pretty cheap because it's all taking place like in one location.
This is the movie Annabelle and Rocky wished they could have made.
Well, apparently not, because they wanted it to be like a crazy dystopian thing, right?
So moving on. Basically, they continue running amok. Tartanga wants to destroy all the giants. That's how he refers to us humans. He wants to destroy them all at once, but Daisy says that she's hungry and wants lunch. And she's all like, well, if Mario was around, he'd take me. And we get a pretty decent line from Tartanga at the last panel here. He goes, I'm not interested in what Mario would do. Tatanga does as he pleases. Very 90s Mr. McMahon, maybe.
Yeah. And obviously, like, Daisy's just trying to distract from him from, hurting these people. And I do appreciate that later on he addresses.
It's so good. It's so much better than it needs to be.
Yeah, Tatanga's not an idiot. Like he basically knows she's trying to manipulate him when she does, and sometimes he knowingly lets her, basically.
Yep, just so he can get that sweet, sweet Daisy. But moving on, let's see. So Tatanga asks Herman where they should eat, and he tells him, and then hypnotizes him anyway into taking him there. It's like I think they've already put the fear of God, or at least the fear of Tatanga, into Herman. I'm sure he would have done it willingly because, he's so weak-willed, but they hypnotize him anyway. Yeah. And while they're leaving, Josh tells Rick that there's only one man who can stop them. And it's funny. Rick goes, who? Hulk Hogan? Yay. Well, yay for the Hulk Hogan reference. Yeah. Chuck Norris, he was even hot back then. And he goes, no, Super Mario. And then Rick, because he doesn't believe in this kid crap, because he's all about the ladies, he just slaps his face and goes, oh, give me a break. How dare he not believe in the power of Mario?
Rick's trying to get his zapper wet,
He's sick of using the power glove, if you get my drift. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next page. So the boys basically conjure up Mario, and then he basically shows up, and immediately.
Yeah, it basically like he plays Josh plays Super Mario Land, and he sees that there's like a door in one screen where there's normally like three. Instead of there being two doors, there's three doors. So he's like, oh, let me go through this third door. Maybe that like leads here, and it does.
And then out pops Mario, and of course he looks just like he always does, and which is just a fun contrast because you've got these, I guess quote unquote stylized, realistic looking dudes here, and then you've got old sprite Mario here, and he's all, "Where's Daisy?" And Josh is all, "Mario, I knew you'd come through," and
yeah, like they could have done this like Roger Rabbit style. Had this been a movie, but I guess that actually would have made it quite expensive,
right? So basically, Josh is all, "Mario, you gotta help us. Tatanga is loose." And of course, Slick Rick, he just can't believe his eyes, but he's still wearing his sunglasses indoors. What a cool guy! And there's an awesome line here. I love that Mario does not act like Mario in this comic. He acts like Han Solo or Indiana Jones. So Josh, he's all, so Rick, he goes, "But you're just a character from a game." And like badass Mario goes, "Life is a game, kid. It all depends on how you play it. Say it with me. No fear."
No fear.
And I mean, I would.
What's funny, Steve, is that there is a No Fear shirt I saw that is kind of like it says something very similar to that.
I'm sure it does.
It'll be a future No Fear shirt of the week.
Absolutely. So Mario says he arrived here through a dimensional warp zone. Josh says he knows where they're going and will take Mario there. But Rick is kind of showing his true colors. He's all, that's across the river, and their mom says it's too dangerous to go there. And so we turn the page, and Mario's all like, "Dangerous? What is it? Desert? Jungle? Frozen tundra?" And Rick is all, "Worse, in New York City." Which is kind of just a fun little whatever. And then we get the Twin Towers. Yes, we know they're no longer there. And there's a evil cloud hovering above it. Below that...
Yeah, again, kind of ominous writing from...
George.
George, is that his name?
This...
Yeah. Like, what did he know that is he from the future?
Hey, maybe that's why he checked out early. He knew what was coming.
He knew too much. Maybe that's actually how he time travels back to the future where he was from.
Wow, this is getting very dark and conspiracy-esque, and I love it. But moving on, so they're in the subway, and let's see here. The brothers and Mario arrive while Tartanga wreaks havoc on the fancy restaurant that they went so Daisy could eat lunch. I don't think there's really much else to say here. It's just kind of funny, I guess, seeing this snooty, like, Mater D, like, dealing with that Papani or whatever his name is. He's all, "I claim this world for Tartanga. Prepare food for him or be destroyed." And the Mater D is all, "Is this some kind of practical joke?" And then again, we get one of those random explosions, and he's probably dead there in the last panel. Yahel, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Another death here caused by the Tatanga here, and it's like these guys are so small. All that. What are they gonna eat? Like a bean? Like who cares? Just give it to them.
One bean. Oh man. Or mushrooms. You'd think, right? And
yeah.
And so the next page, we get like another sort of medium shot panel of all the cute little critters wreaking havoc on the restaurant. Let's see. Josh, Rick, and Mario are also attacked by those bees. Josh tells Rick how to fight the bees, and he says that he would know how to do this if he played more Game Boy and stayed away from girls. Is this the message we really need to be sending?
I don't know. Maybe Maybe they're like, this is like a secret pro abstinence message.
Yeah,
here.
maybe. I mean, but I thought,
Don't play with girls. Play with your Game Boy.
exactly. So yeah, I mean,
The only thing you should be sticking in anywhere is Super Mario Land.
right.
You know, maybe
Put your cartridge in Nintendo, not a girl. So yeah, he shows him how to like beat up like some of the bad guys. You got to hit them a proper way. And yeah,
over the
something
head.
like that.
Obviously, like you got to bonk him
But
on
Rick,
top.
yeah,
Just like you would in the game. But isn't it weird though how like then Rick is like, oh look, or rather Josh is like, oh look, they're creating the video game world like here, but it's like in the air. They're basically creating the levels.
right. It's like their world is slowly taking over ours. I mean, I'd say that's like a standard trope for this kind of story.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
It's fine.
It is weird,
It was
though.
just kind of. But I get it. Like they have to get away for like Mario to do Mario game things. You know, go through warp zone or warp tunnels.
They
get power
really want
so
you to buy a Game Boy and play Mario Land. That's what they want. But I think it's funny here. So after Josh delivers the line about, play more Game Boy, stop hanging around with girls, Rick, he is just so bound and determined to hook up that even under threat of death, he's all, how about instead of homework, So he's going to give up homework to play more Game Boy, but still wants to chase girls. So I'm Team Rick on this, but moving on. So 16, Josh remembers a secret from the game, and Mario finds a secret elevator. Basically, in one of the panels here, Mario is like, oh, it's going to take us forever to fight our way to Tenga. So Josh finds the secret, and this is funny. Mario is all, a secret elevator. Thanks. I'll take it from here, guys. And Josh is all, no way, Mario. We're team power bottom. I mean, power team now. Just an interesting choice of words. That's all. So now we're back with Tanga and Daisy. And she's all, if you just give up war and conquest, I'd... And he's all, really? He's all, is the meal satisfactory, Daisy? Is there anything else you'd like? Anything? I really do want to please you. And then she says her line about giving up war and conquest. And then he's all like, if I gave up conquering worlds, will you marry me? And Daisy is all like, no, but I mean, I think she like tipped her hand there a little early, but Tatanga wants her so bad, he still like won't like toss her to the side and decides he's going to be even more like evil than before, and then demands more beverage, which, I mean, what on earth is he drinking here? Like I don't know, Blue Moon or something?
I think it's supposed to be like a Coke because like there's like ice cubes in it, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe he's having an old fashioned. I don't know.
Right? Like why? Is the palette from Mario Land does it work here in the real world too? Like, I mean, they answered a lot of questions in this comic, but they didn't answer that one. So anyway, what's that?
I was just saying, yeah, that's fine. But they do surprisingly answer a lot more things than I expected.
Yes, they do. In fact, so we glossed over, and I mean, I wouldn't even think about this, but old George, he felt the need to throw it in there anyway. What Mario or Josh or Rick is like, why are you guys in color? Why aren't you in black and white? And Mario was like, oh, you've got a device here that communicates with other dimensions, and you're worried why we're not in color or not? Like,
yeah. He's like, this has enough reception to get this, and think we should be in color too. Like, isn't this incredible enough already?
So basically, that's Nintendo's way of saying, be happy with the Game Boy the way it is. You don't need no stinking Game Gear with its color. Like, what you have in your hands is an amazing device. So shut up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So on page 17, not really too much happens. You basically just get more Mario here, sort of wreaks havoc on the sprites, fights some more bad guys. So We're going to go ahead and move on to the next page. Tartanga says this is where, as Yahel said before, Tartanga says that he allows Daisy to manipulate him so he can manipulate her, and that in this world you only live once. And I mean, this was a bombshell. Like I didn't see that.
Yeah, me too.
And
I thought so too.
Basically, he says that he lured Mario to this world specifically because you only live once. And it's his plan to kill Mario once and for all. It was his plan all along.
Yeah, like kill him for real.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, again, this would have made like a great like lead into like Act 3 of a film, you know, like when this master plot is revealed. And it's like, oh shit, this guy really is like a monster, you know? And I love how meta it is too, that he knows, or I guess all the characters from the game Super Mario Land know that they're in a game and they know that they die over and over, but it's fine because they always come back. And he's like trying to make it permanent.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
I couldn't believe it. And just a quick aside, I don't know why, but I was like dreading having to read these and do this. I guess just because the Super Mario episode, like, you know, did so well, and, you know, it was a movie and we just sort of sat back and, you know, just sort of breezed through it. But yeah, this ended up being quite a surprise. But anyway, so yeah, we discovered that it was his plan all along, and then we turned the page, and basically there's Josh here. He wants to help Mario so bad, but Rick, he's again being a little bit more cowardly than before. He's all, Josh, this isn't a game. We could get killed out here. What would Mom say? And we turn the page, and then Josh is all, she'd say, don't let your team down. Come on, Rick. It's the bottom of the ninth. And we get more baseball metaphors here. Yeah. And Rick goes, Josh, all right. Already, we're a team, but you're on the bench. Got it? I'm gonna do the relief pitching, and it's so bad. Like this, I'm not a big fan of the baseball metaphors here, but as you said, baseball was still hot in the '90s, and
and then like Rick showed, because I guess the impression that I got is that Rick is the older brother. Is that the impression you got?
Yes, definitely.
So Rick ends up like pushing Josh out of the way, and then like it's weird because in the next page it's almost like implied that he pushed him somewhere where Josh wouldn't have been able to then help or interfere. So I didn't quite get that. Like it was a little unclear. But yeah, so like basically Rick is like, get out of here. I'm gonna take care of this. And yes, I will keep my sunglasses off.
Right. All right. So in the meantime, Mario moves closer to, I guess, Daisy and Tartanga, and he's almost there. And then out of nowhere, Herman shows up, and ECW Hardcore lays the aluminum tray. He smacks Mario away, like spang. Like I didn't see that coming. And basically he hit.
And I think this is why earlier, Dave, sorry to cut you off, they showed the original, I can't remember the MAGA guy's name, but they showed Herman. They showed Herman being hypnotized. It's because like now he's under the control of Tatanga. So I think it was to justify him fighting. And
he didn't even like Mario to begin with, even before he was hypnotized. So this all makes sense.
Right.
It's crazy. So Mario is falling into like basically a mosh pit of these bad guy sprites. In the background, Rick runs forward. He's doing the old classic, no! And so we turn the page, and so Rick completes his character arc by saving Mario. I can't believe it. And for the first time, his sunglasses fall off, and we see him for the hero that he really is. And unfortunately, we get another baseball metaphor from Mario, and says, "Nice save, kid. Play ball." What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think you touched on all the important parts. And what's funny, Steve, is that last week when we started going over the No Fear shirts, I don't know if you remember, but there was a baseball one. And it literally, I have it up right here, and it said, it starts off with bottom of the ninth. Down by 3 bases, or down by 3 bases loaded. Full count, 2 outs. No fear. And that's basically like that panel from the previous page. But yeah, I mean, this would have made a great, scene in the film,
Something actually kind of,
like you said,
almost heartwarming, where there was none of that in the 93 Super Mario Bros. It's all just sort of flatlining.
Yeah.
There's no real like emotion or anything like that. But
right. And hey, our 2 main heroes are, kids, which would have been kids love, and teens, they love seeing themselves in these movies as the heroes. Yeah, Mario is in this, and yeah, he's a hero, but really the main protagonists are the 2 brothers.
As it should be. Josh, basically, Josh suggests that Mario break some blocks because he sees like a block pattern from the game, and Mario is all, they don't build stuff. Oh yeah, this is when they over-explain again, because Rick is all, I get it, but why did Tatanga's engineers build stuff that might help you, Mario? And then Mario is like, they don't. They build stuff for their own comfort and convenience. It can be used against them, though, if you know how, and we know how. Like, again, is this some sort of, like, class thing here? Like, they're...
I don't know. But I mean, it makes... I really didn't mind it because it's Rick that asks, and Rick is the one that the whole time has been, like, like a doubting Thomas or whatever. So it makes sense that he's like... And it is like it's a strange situation that they're finding themselves in, right? I would have a lot of questions myself. I would still, of course, go into this with no fear.
That's the only way to do anything these days.
It's the bottom of the ninth. You can't have fear. You're down by 3 and your bases are loaded.
Play
Steve.
ball?
Come on. The full count is depending on you. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, and I brought 2 balls to play with.
Now it's turning into a Big Johnson T-shirt.
Anyways, give me my
right. So we turn the page, and so again, they are just bombarded by these little sprites, and one of the little bees is going, exterminate them, which I don't know if you ever watched Doctor Who, but that's the Daleks. That's like one of the things they say. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Really? I did not know that. I bet it is a callback to it.
So Josh and Rick, I mean, they're in full-on hero mode here. I mean, they're getting taken down by these bad guys, but newly, recreated hero Rick is all, Mario, forget about us. And Josh is like, yeah, hit the bricks, hurry. And so Mario hits one of the bricks. He immediately gets a star, and
I think the implication here is like this is cocaine for Mario. He makes him feel like he's invincible. He's not feeling any pain.
So he saves the boys, and then Tartanga calls for his robot at the end here. He's like, somehow I knew it would come to this. Guards, bring me my war robot. Of course, he has a weird name, Pagusu, or something along those lines. So we turn the page, and we don't even get to, I guess... We never even get to see the robot. This is really weird. So we kind of have a little bit of an anticlimactic ending here, which I guess you have to because there's 3 more issues, and I guess he'll have to have a final battle with Tartanga later. But basically, Daisy is all, so this is the end, Tartanga. One way or the other for all time. And he's all, what are you talking about? And she's all, Mario won't stop until you're finished. He is invincible. Now, and what was it you said in this world? You only live once, which is almost a James Bond movie. And then she's all holding her face in that classic sort of like romance comic pose. And she's all, I really do feel ill. I'll take me back to my cell now, please. Which, why not just run away? I don't know. It's they have a weird relationship. And Tatanga is all, Daisy.
Well, I think Daisy, like the idea is like Daisy is such a good person that she doesn't even want to see Tatanga get killed. Because like now she's like, Mario's going to kill you. Basically is what she's saying. And I don't know what that says about Mario. Maybe because she's like, he is invincible, aka he is coked out of his mind. He won't be
Right,
able to
we
stop
established
himself.
that. I mean, Mario is essentially like Snake Plissken or Solid Snake in this comic. So, yeah, he's got no
Right.
qualms.
And maybe Mario doesn't know because Daisy didn't know that once you die here, you die
Ooh,
forever. So maybe Mario doesn't
wow,
know either.
what a
You know?
revelation! So yeah, Tatanga is all. Tell me, is it his life you fear for or mine, Daisy? And he's like, oh, and then basically Tatanga goes, bah, I'll battle Mario when I choose. This luncheon is over. Activate
Great
the
line.
warp zone vortex. And so this Game Boy, which happens to be sitting on the table, sucks in all the baddies and the black cloud and everything. And Mario is, oh no, come back here. And
But did you notice that Mario, who's he's taken the star, and you can see there's like this yellow light around him. However, Mario himself is all white, much like cocaine. Again, Steve, I'm just saying.
I'm sure
Just
George
saying.
was heavily into the white stuff at this point. So we turn the page, and all right, let's see here. 23. Mario says he has to go back before the warp zone closes, and to call him if Tatanga ever comes back. And I mean, that is essentially the end of the comic. And we get a huge close up of Josh, and he's just, oh, okay, bye. Like you'd think, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't expect tears, but maybe just something a little more. Will we ever see you again, Mario? And I guess the answer is yes, since there's like 3
Right.
more issues. But it's funny. There's like a few cops come in, and they're all, looks like all the patrons are locked in the restaurant. So they had to explain where all the patrons of the restaurant are, because otherwise there would just be bodies everywhere. Yeah.
Right. However, in the mall, like itself, there are bodies
Yeah, they don't.
littered everywhere. It is a Dawn of the Dead like
It
scene.
is. Yeah, I mean, you just sort of have to read between the lines, a la Stanley Kubrick. But yeah, complete massacre. They don't show it, but it's implied. And so Josh is all, look, the police. Great. Hey, where's the skinny guy who was helping Tatanga? The one who clobbered Mario. And Rick is all, he ducked out during the fight. I saw him. And I was really kind of disappointed because I wanted Herman to get his comeuppance. But again, I guess you're going to have to read on, dear reader, if you want to see that happen. And so Josh is all, think anyone will believe what happened? And Rick is like, I hope Mom does. At least next time we'll know what to do. So they're already setting up a sequel or the next issue. And then we get a final like exterior shot of, I guess it's one of the Twin Towers, and they're all, but what if Tatanga pops up someplace else, like far away maybe? What can we do? Well, we can tell all our friends, ask them to spread the word. And I mean, is that to just spread the word about Game Boy and playing Super Mario Land, do you think?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's kind of how I
yeah.
took it.
And then you get a letter from the editor at the end here, and that is Game Boy #1 from Valiant Comics. And wow, what a ride! Let's play the bumper, and we'll render our verdict. How about that?
Next question.
All right, let me get it back to the opening. There it is. Okay. So, Yahel Velazquez, Super Yahel Velazquez. Do you think Game Boy #1 by Valiant Comics should be reread until the end of human history, or sent back through the transdimensional portal all the way to Super Mario Land 1?
Yeah, based on this issue, I think so. I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would. And again, like you, the whole time I was thinking, God, why wasn't this the movie?
This was a real surprise. I mean, since most of the time when we read these licensed comics, they are pretty terrible. But yeah, compared to Super Mario Bros. 93 movie, like this is a literary masterpiece up there with War and Peace almost. It's better than it has any right to be. I actually chose this one compared because there was the a Super Mario Bros. That featured just them, not in the real world, just in sort of like their regular land or whatever. But those were, real short, like kind of kiddie. There was really nothing. It didn't have the nuance, like it didn't have the layers of this. Right. Like, so yeah, I say save it. And if you're a fan of Nintendo, you definitely should take.
Or social commentary.
It's an interesting time capsule, to say the least. If you're a fan of Mario Brothers, Game Boy, or Nintendo, you should definitely check it out. So for all those reasons, Game Boy number 1 will be remembered.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
Woo! All right. Well, I mean, that was way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that was surprisingly
I think another thing that sort of worked against it for me initially when I was sort of thumbing through it to see if I wanted to see if we were going to cover it or not was just, that initial scan was not good. And like, I just didn't want it to look like crap for people who are actually going to watch this. But if you see an actual IRL copy of Game Boy number 1, I know I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah, it was very, very entertaining for sure. Maybe part of it is because, we went in with low expectations, but, you're not going to... I'm not saying that this is going to be like anyone's favorite
it's not
comic,
Watchmen.
But it's certainly a fun read, and it's a quick...
for sure. So anything else to add before we sign off here? I know you mentioned a Game Boy video. Like, we'll when we get to see that?
I wish I could tell you when, Steve. We'll probably have a few more No Fear shirts of the week before we see it. But and I'm redoing my Game Boy camera video as well.
I know what would speed things up if people subscribed. That's what would do.
Yes.
And all right then. Well, we would love your sub. Check us out on Twitch or TikTok or anywhere you get podcasts. And we will see you next Sunday as we continue to unearth more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next week.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.